Seth Rollins was out with Murphy talking about all the people that he has hurt, all the people that he has injured. Kevin Owens, of course, is out with an ankle injury. Aleister Black, well, actually, I mean, he did have a legitimate ankle injury coming out of the WrestleMania match, but then they kind of worked it into the story. Aleister Black hurt his hand, Rey Mysterio's eye, his poor eye. And he said that, I don't want to be the person that hurts people. I'm sure Bret Hart would have something to say about that. So Dominic was there to confront Rollins when Rollins opened his arms to him. And Dominic attacked. He took down Murphy as well, but the two of them overwhelmed this kid. They're bouncing him around, throwing him into the barricade and the plexiglass. And all of a sudden, Rollins was fixated on the ring steps. He's fixated on the ring steps. I think I know how Becky Lynch conceived her child now. Because when Seth Rollins gets that look in his eye, when he gazes upon the ring steps, you can just see it. I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the bedroom one night and Seth, he's having some trouble. All of a sudden he looks over and he makes sure that he has one of those ring steps right in the corner of the bedroom. And if he's ever having a problem, right? If he's ever having an issue, all he's got to do is just look on over at those ring steps. And then before you know it, boom, 9 months later, Becky Lynch pops out a little Messiah. That's how it works. He gets this look in his eye. He is fixated on these ring steps. So he's going to do to Dominic what he did to Dominic's father. All of a sudden, Aleister Black, with his hand all taped up, made the save, and he sacrificed himself for Eddie's son, Viva la Raza. Rollins told Murphy, you know what you need to do. And Murphy was, he was not very enthusiastic about doing this, and so Rollins slapped him. So Murphy took Aleister Black and he pushed his eye into the corner of the ring steps, just like Rollins did to Ray Ray. Fireman Black. This is what Aleister Black gets, always coming out to rescue people. Sometimes you're going to get burned. And that's what happened to him this week. I was done with this eye shit the moment they announced that stupid stipulation for the pay-per-view. They went off to go find Dominic now that they had taken out Aleister Black. And Dominic was now armed with a kendo stick. And he whipped the hell out of Rollins. He whipped the hell out of Murphy. They had welts. Rollins had welts all over his body. Dominic, I thought, looked great. He was swinging this thing. I mean, he would have taken this guy's head off if he didn't duck. And I'm really hoping that we get that tag team match, him and Ray, against Rollins and Murphy. It sounds like Ray is probably going to sign a new deal. They're already in storyline talking about how, good news, his eye is not going to be permanently damaged, it looks like. And they would only do that if they thought they were going to get him back. So I'm thinking that Ray is not going anywhere. I didn't think he was going anywhere anyway because of Dominic. It is too bad that for all the times that we saw Fireman Black running out to rescue people, nobody bothers to save him. You notice that? Like, he's always running out to rescue somebody else, but when he needs help the most, there's nobody there to help him. Humberto Carrillo was on the show later on. And we've seen him come out as kind of an ally of his before, because he's also been feuding with Rollins and Murphy on occasion. Where was he? He was there. How come he didn't come out and rescue Aleister Black? He was nowhere to be found. So I hope that Black takes this as a lesson, that he needs to look out for himself from now on and stop worrying about other people, since most of those same people obviously don't give a shit about him. And as an aside, while I'm talking about Seth Rollins, it is the summertime, and so it's that time of year for Seth Rollins to say something kind of stupid. Although this time I think this was more a case of him just using poor language. Seth Rollins gave an interview to Alex McCarthy of talkSPORT, and he weighed in on the success of Sasha Banks and Bayley here in the pandemic era. But he made a very peculiar comment. He said, I think it's no secret that Bayley and Sasha have done their goddamnedest to fill in with Becky being out and the women's division just being wide open. Charlotte Flair being out as well. The women have been lagging behind Becky and Charlotte for some time. And now it's time for them to step up and do their thing. Asuka has also stepped up, but I do think Bayley and Sasha have been great. They've filled that void as best as they possibly can. And they have been working like crazy as the tag team champions and now the Raw and SmackDown champions. That was a poor choice of words by Seth Rollins, or word. That word being lagging. The other women have been lagging behind Becky and Charlotte. See, I hear that word. That word to me implies that performance-wise, they can't measure up. Or that they, have not been able to become the kind of big stars that Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair have become. They're lagging behind these women, and now that they're gone, it's time for these other women to step up. I just think that was not the right word to use, because if you really look at it, now we're getting Sasha and Bayley overload on television every week, and I could see at some point being completely sick of it. I'm not sick of it yet. I enjoy the act. But if this were to continue for another, month, 2 months, then yeah, I would put them in the same category with Charlotte Flair, get them off my TV. But for so long, we didn't really see Sasha Banks, for example. Bayley was the champion. Sasha was just kind of in the background. And I always thought, Sasha Banks is money in that women's division. And she has been relegated to a bit player. She's been relegated to a background player. And now she's had the time to make a big comeback, and she's on television every week on every show, and she's the champion, and that's cool. That's awesome. That's the spot that she should be in. Sasha Banks is in the spot now that she belongs in, because she's a star. But the issue is never that they're lagging behind Charlotte and Becky because they're not big enough stars, or because they haven't been really shown in the ring that they can kind of carry the water. They've proven that already. Sasha and Bayley both have already proven that. There's other women on the roster. Asuka, I love how he says, Asuka's also stepped up. Well, you know what? Asuka's been stepping up since day fucking one. It's a little hard to do that, though, when certain other women are prioritized, and other women, you could even put Naomi in that category if you want to. I know all the Naomi fans probably feel that way. Now, there were other issues. Naomi was off television. I don't know if it was a health issue or what it was, but I'm specifically looking at people like Sasha and Bayley and Asuka, and I'm thinking to myself, you're only as good as much as you're featured by the company. If you're not written into the show, or your role on the show is not really much of a priority, but Charlotte is, and Becky is, as they should have been. They're big stars, no doubt about it, and Becky was the biggest. Not saying she shouldn't have been in that spot, but this idea that they were lagging, I think, is just a bad fucking word to use in that circumstance. And he's going to get a lot of flack for it, and deservedly so. I don't think he meant anything, negative by it. I just think it was a very poor way of phrasing what he was trying to say. The key point being that with those two ladies gone, it's an opportunity for all of these other women now to shine and to take advantage of the fact that two major stars are no longer on these television shows. That is true. And is he also, going to be, partial because of, the fact that he's with Becky? Maybe, but nothing he's saying in that regard is wrong. But, believe me, these women, they've been stepping up. And they would have gladly stepped up if they had the opportunity to do so, as much as Charlotte and Becky had for the last year plus. So I don't like this implication that, they haven't been stepping up and now they're going to have to, because they've been lagging. What are they, a fucking YouTube stream? They've been lagging. I like the fact that they've been taking advantage of the opportunity that has been given to them. That's the key. They're being given television time. There's never a doubt in my mind that they could take advantage of it. Some people would say they're not because the ratings are down, but that's a whole conversation that it goes back to the Drew McIntyre thing. Who's to blame? You're going to blame Drew because he's the champion? You're going to blame the women because they've been in some of the main event positions and the third hour usually dies a death on these shows? I don't know. When Sasha Banks went to NXT to face Io Shirai a month ago or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, up until recently, I think something recently topped it. Might have been the winner-take-all match. That match did one of the best numbers or quarter-hour numbers, I think, in the history of the NXT television show. So I don't know that it's necessarily a black and white issue here. There are shades of gray. It's not such an easy answer.